Final Percent.
All right. We are back with the Final Percent podcast, and today I'm going to maybe potentially talk about what I consider a controversial topic, but I alluded to it in my last podcast, and it all stems from the fact I was speaking at a high school, and I asked someone, what do you want to do when you grow up? And they said, I want to be an influencer. And I said, what do you mean an influencer? Well, I want to be an IG influencer. And I was like, well, what do you want to influence? And they said, I don't know. What? You just want to be an influencer? What? And you have no idea what you're going to influence? And I just thought that this concept was so weird. And I think that this is kind of a systemic problem because we are looking for value in validation, and our validation is coming from likes and listens and views and hearts and thumbs ups and all of these things, and people aren't actually focusing on making a difference in other people's lives, let alone theirs. And so I just want to have the conversation, and I want to just start really trying to get people to want to actually make a real impact instead of saying, hey, you know what, I really want to be an influencer. I want to influence someone. And I think the influence comes from being addicted to fame and power, and the illusion of power and control and so on and so forth, because people want validation in the form of attention and in the form of power and in the form of just being able to, post a picture about their food and they have 1,000 people like it. It's very strange. And again, I alluded to this in our previous podcast with my wife and I talking about the miscarriage we had just gone through and my bike wreck and dealing with suicide so close to our inner circle and our family that kind of rocked our entire world, and it has made me really change perspective on how I'm approaching the idea of helping people. And the idea of helping people is great, but most people just keep it an idea. And most people aren't trying to actually make a real shift for other people, let alone themselves. And I think it really starts with the internal thing. And so many times I've said, you have to be before you can do, and you have to do before you can have. But that's just one path. And if we want to expand that path, I think that it's important to talk about the fact that you have to make a conscious choice to be somebody of value before you can get external validation. And so again, it starts with being instead of doing, and certainly instead of having. The root of everything is becoming someone of value. And how you become someone of value is you have to focus on yourself. And unfortunately, in today's day and age, that seems, or that is frowned on because everyone says, oh, well, you're being selfish. And I had a really close personal friend open up to me, and immediately something happened to where tears started coming out, and they said, I'm so sorry. And I said, why are you sorry? Why would you be sorry that you're going through something? And I think the fact that we live in a world where everybody wants to hide the fact that they're going through something is one of the biggest culprits of certainly teen suicide and mental illness and mental health, because acid destroys the container in which it's held. And so if you're going through something, and if you are so worried about what other people may think about you and you don't want to let that out, acid is going to eat you from the inside out, and it's going to show up in every part of your life. And yes, there's people who you have to say, oh, and let it go, and you have to not let it bother you. But whether you like it or not, some people are just wired differently than you. In fact, most people are all wired differently, right? And it might just bother them, and you just telling them it shouldn't matter is not going to help it. You have to be sympathetic and empathetic in what they're going through. And I think that we have to have a more free, authentic society so that if someone says, hey, how are you doing? And someone is actually bold enough to say, I'm not doing that well, stop and have that conversation. But so many people want to live in this land of illusion and delusion. They're going through life trying to get validated for all of the wrong reasons. And that's why I really think that the conversation of influence versus impact really needs to start being had, because if we are running around only trying to be an influencer, you have to ask yourself, what's your end goal? And I recently started a coaching practice, and I do Final Percent coaching, and the whole coaching market is so oversaturated that it's hard to kind of differentiate yourself. And so I stopped calling myself a life coach, which is sad, because I mean that is what I do to some extent. And I started saying, okay, so what am I really trying to get accomplished? And what I realized that I'm trying to get accomplished is I want to be a mental performance coach. So I want to help you. It's kind of like tuning an engine. It's kind of like making sure that everything's firing on all cylinders, that you're making the right decisions, you have the right attitude. If we're using engine terms, you have your oil changed, you have your turbos spooling up correctly, you have all this stuff. I want to make people open their eyes to the best version of themselves. So going back to you have to be before you can do, and you have to do before you can have, that's again one path. So what do I mean by this? I think that there is something that happens before be, because think about it, you can only be what you accept and what you can see. And so I think that we have to put the word see before be, and you have to be able to be open. You have to open your mind, open your heart. You have to be ready to become someone and know that it's possible. Because again, the whole idea of Albert Einstein saying, I believe that everybody is a genius, and he equates that to, if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, it will spend its whole life thinking that it's stupid. So, with that being said, if all you see and all you accept, okay, well, when I say be, do, have, you're going to start becoming something that might be just 5% of your potential. And so what I want you to start doing is get around the people who make you uncomfortable, get around the people who push your limiting beliefs, get around the people who show you what's possible. You want to know what's possible. You want to understand what you are capable of and what is possible for your life. You want to understand that there is more to life than this, and you have to believe that you can achieve whatever this is. And I know that some of these sound like buzzwords and catchphrases and certain phrases that come up a lot, but there's a reason they come up a lot. But before you are going to choose to be something, someone, you have to understand what you have available to you. And what I have become is very much equated to two very specific things. Number one, my wife. She believed in me as being a great husband, a great friend, a great partner. And it made me want to become those things. And I'm not saying that when we got together, I wasn't. It's just she saw me for who I could be. She saw before I did. And it made me want to rise to the challenge. But you have to get into that same mindset when you're doing your self-talk. So when you say, I want to be a multimillionaire, well, that's not specific enough. But then you got to get into why do you want to be it? Because it's not necessarily the money, it's who do you have to become to make the money, right? Now, if you have to become a criminal, that's a really bad goal. If you have to become someone who has a lot of knowledge that people are willing to pay you for, okay, well, then that is noble. And you should be paid for it. You put a lot of time and effort and energy becoming that person who could make an impact. But right now we live in this land of I'm going to buy this and you should have borrowed credibility because I have an expensive car. or I have a big house, or I have a beautiful wife, or I have a lot of money in the bank, or I take trips to Europe, or I'm always on a cruise, or it's always money, 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 money. And that's everyone's value right now. And I have often said money should show up when you are a badass. Money is just a byproduct of you being a badass. Being, there's that word again. So I want you to focus on being a badass. Focus on being an impact. Focus on being an impactor. Someone who impacts decisions. Someone who impacts everyone around them. Someone who impacts the lives of others. This whole influencer thing is very interesting. I'm starting to think it's just a new word for famous, because you can make an impact and no one will know your name. The whole anonymous and silent auctions where people will donate millions of dollars because they're philanthropists and they do it anonymously. Well, why did they do that? Because they wanted to make an impact. They didn't do it because they wanted other people to go, oh my gosh, he's just so amazing. It's all a PR stunt. So I want to raise this question, and I want people to start trying to be someone of worth. Do things of worth. And you might just have things of worth, but they should be byproducts. Be plus do equals have. But that's, again, one path. Before you choose that B, you have to open your mind to see what are all of the possibilities. And you get that through learning. You get that through books. You get that through people. You get that through travel. You get that through culture. You get that through so many amazing things in your life that you need to see and be aware of the possibilities. And you might just be in the right place at the right time, but you're too busy taking a picture of your perfect life, your perfect wife, your perfect friends, your perfect food, your perfect this, that, and the other. Nobody actually cares. If anything, people are just going to be like, I'm jealous or envious of that person. So out of sheer principle, I'm not going to like what they want or what they posted. We live in a very weird time, guys. So what I challenge everyone to do is go out there and find one person. Hopefully it's you first, because if you become more, you can do more. You can make a bigger impact. But find someone to make an impact in their life. When you see a homeless person on the side of the street, you know what? Go buy him McDonald's and put a $100 bill inside. That would make an impact of something that they would remember for the rest of their life. Make memories. Make an impact in all things in your life. Make sure that when you enter a room, and not in a belligerent way, not in a boisterous way, but when you enter a room, people know that you're there. People know who you are, because you're going to make an impact in the room, in that person's life, in a group of people's lives. One thing that I do in the month of December is I tip 100%. And I really, if you can, I really invite you to do this, because think about it. Anybody who relies on tips, that's usually the hardest time in their life, because people are so busy. Other people are really trying to just pinch pennies. And then they have all of this time off because you have New Year's and you have Christmas and you have this. And yes, people go out for the one day to do family dinner or maybe New Year's night. But for the most part, people aren't going out and doing things where it requires the tip as much. So what I challenge you to do is make an impact and truly, and just see, and I'm telling you, see what happens come January, because energy is an interesting flowy thing. And if you put that energy out, it comes back to you. It really does. Good givers make great getters. Now imagine if you're a great giver. Make an impact. And you know what? Make an impact for you and make an impact for someone else. Stop trying to make an impact for social media. It's a PR stunt. If you're going to do a PR stunt, then do a PR stunt. There's nothing wrong with marketing, but call it what it is. Do a PR stunt because you want to do a PR stunt and you want to get attention. And don't be ashamed of saying, I want attention. You should look at me, and here's why. And if people don't look at you, change what you're doing. But the day-to-day of how you live your life, I want you to try to make an impact and not have to tell everybody. Oh man, like okay, for instance, if you do the thing where you tip 100%, tip 100% and don't tell anybody. If you take your friends out for dinner and then you tip 100%, don't show everyone the bill and be like, check out what I did. I tipped 100%. If you're going to tip 100% and tell everyone, do it because you're having a conversation with the right people and you're trying to get them to adopt that philosophy as well. You're trying to facilitate an impact in your community, an impact in all of these people's lives, that $100 really will change their entire week. For some people, $20 will change their entire week. So go inside your soul, inside your heart, inside your mind, and do whatever you can to make an impact. Do it as often as you possibly can. Make a difference as often as you possibly can, and watch the difference start happening in your life. I guarantee you it's going to happen. And you know what? More people are going to take notice. It's an interesting thing that happens, but I invite you to stop trying to be the influencer and start trying to be someone of worth, someone who truly makes an impact. I'm telling you, it's possible. This has been the Final Percent Podcast. Something that's been on my heart for a long time. I'm telling you, after my bike thing, after the miscarriage, I'm a different person. I've changed, and I'm excited to share it with you. Welcome to the new Final Percent.